Hello viewers, my name is Chase Clover and this is my review on the September 17th, 2014 edition of USW Wednesday Night Intensity. This is the second to last Intensity before Top Rope 2014 and it was a pretty good show. The matches, most of them were pretty good. There were a few that weren't that great. There were some spots on the show that could have used a little bit of work, and there were also some things on the show that, kind of had a fresh start, a new change, as you may say. I shouldn't say fresh start, I should say something that you don't see often, something pretty new. But anyway, this was a pretty good show, better than last week's, way better than last week's, probably better than the week before. And now we just gotta see what the go-home show to Top Rope 2014 next week will be. Now, quick updates, because here's, first off, Enigma, Zach Hardy, was not there because of a broken toe, and he was given the night off last week. As well as I've heard that the USW website is down. The only thing that they'll be able to do is stream the videos or the episodes or whatever you want to call them. So, that's pretty much that. That's all I have. So, not a bad show. We start off the show with, I don't remember. No, we actually started off with we started out with the match, the first match on the card. It was CED with ED in his corner, defeating James. I know that James is going into this rivalry with Chris Ross, because after this match was pretty alright. It was alright. But after the match, Chris Ross came out and attacked James and said, "I've got a match later tonight, and I'm not going to let you interfere, and there's no way that you can beat me, and I will prove it to you at Top Rope in 2 weeks." So that's what Chris Ross leaves that note on, and that's pretty much that. And then we have this interview with Derek Carter about his match against Yo-Yo Joe for the USW Championship, and I kind of gave it away. But I don't think some of you know about that, so I'll just keep going on. The second match on the card was Margigetta with Western Light in his corner, defeating Fernandez with Gringo in his corner. I know you may be thinking right now, Margigetta and Fernandez are in a rivalry. The match should be at a pay-per-view. Why is it on Intensity? Well, the reason why is because at the pay-per-view, the Top Rope match is going to be one of the main matches actually the main event match on the card. And I believe it is Fernandez and Gringo that are taking part in it, and not Margigetta and Western Light. So, since Fernandez and Gringo will be facing in the Top Rope match, much like many other rivalries going on right now, Fernandez and Gringo won't be able to have a singles match at the pay-per-view. Therefore, Margigetta and Fernandez, I guess USW wanted to get this match out of the way, being as they won't have it at the pay-per-view, they want to at least have it, plain and simple. They just want to at least have the match. So, I think it would have made more sense to do it next week, but then again, I don't really blame them. It is a good rivalry. This match was way better than the match they had at Capital Carnage. It was possibly the best match on the card. And very balanced, like I've been saying since this rivalry, started happening. What I've been saying was that Margigetta and Fernandez had this vibe to them, this vibe to their rivalry, which made the rivalry a lot more interesting, and they had a lot more character. They had a lot more, and they had many more spots to improve their character, improve their mic skills, and hype up the match and their rivalry going into the next pay-per-view that ended up coming up. When Fernandez won the International Championship, and then retained it the following pay-per-view, made me wonder what they were going to do, and then once I realized that it's a minor title, it's not a title that has to be defended at a pay-per-view, and that the next pay-per-view was going to be focusing on a specific match type, I knew that one of them would at least be in the top rope match, which means they would not have this match at top rope. So you got this match tonight. It was not for the International Championship, so Masvidal still is not champion. Fernandez is still the champion. But all in all, pretty good match. Masvidal won cleanly. Gringo did not interfere on Fernandez's behalf, and Western Light did not interfere on Masvidal's behalf. So, glad that Masvidal could win cleanly, which means that there is, to me, a lot more interest in going into their match at, Caution. If they have a match at Caution, which I think that's where the rivalry will end, between Fernandez and Masvidal. So, glad that they get to have the match, at least have the match. So, anyway, moving on. Afterwards was pretty much nothing. They went to commercial break, and then the third match came up, and it was Philip Akron defeating Tallman Chris Ross. You saw backstage, before the Masvidal and Fernandez match, you saw Chris Ross talking to Philip Akron, talking to him, and saying, I've got a match in 2 weeks, so I need to be at top shape and top level. Take it easy on me, because I want to keep my momentum going into the top rope pay-per-view. So Philip Akron doesn't do that. And as the commentator said multiple times, Philip Akron, yes, he did defeat a former 4-time USW World Heavyweight Champion. And he won cleanly. It's not like James interfered in the match. Until after the match. But Philip Akron did win cleanly, and that whole spiel that Chris Ross did with Philip Akron just didn't do anything. It pretty much mullered his chances to have hype going into EE even next week. So, and after the match, after Tom and Chris Ross lost, James came out and attacked Chris Ross, and said, "You should have finished me off when you had the chance, because I still came back and I still you out of the thing, even though they had to censor out the F word." But yeah, all in all, good match. Two tall, tough, strong guys going against each other, which pretty much has fire fighting fire. Except in this case, one of them won and the other did not. So, anyway, moving on to the next match. The fourth match on the card was Cannon defeating Benny Franklin. Prophecy was banned from Cannon's corner, and Ezra Hills was banned from Benny Franklin's corner because they don't want this to turn into chaos, I guess. They didn't want it to turn into a brawl. At least that's what the commentators were saying, so that's what I'm going along with. It's probably just part of the storyline, but I don't know why you wouldn't let them. If it was a storyline, I don't know why you wouldn't let them on the corner. As a matter of fact, a fight would actually do more for them. But anyway, moving on. Cannon defeated Benny Franklin, and that was pretty much that. Cannon celebrated. They went to another commercial break. And then they came back, and the fifth match on the card was MC4 picking up the win against Titanfall. Crimson Red ended up coming out to ringside near the end of Titanfall's match, sitting down at ringside, throwing the Extreme title off the chair that he ended up sitting in, so that way he could sit down in the seat. Titanfall hit his finishing maneuver, and then got out of the ring and hit a big boot in the face of Crimson Red, knocking his chair over and knocking him backwards. And then MC4, after Titanfall got back in the ring, MC4 did like this roll-up pin or something like that and won the match. Crimson Red that came in and hit him with a steel chair, then took him out on the outside area and started beating down on him, which ended up proving that Crimson Red is now a heel. So Crimson Red has turned into a bad guy, which kind of now balances out. Instead of face versus face title match at top rope, it'll be a face versus a heel, which, cancels out and breaks even. So luckily we actually have a match that actually makes sense on the card, being as it is a heel versus face now. At least that's what it's looking like. It looks like Crimson Red's going to turn heel, but we'll just have to find out what happens in the future. Afterwards, Kyle Reese got on the Titantron and told Crimson Red that he was going to have a match, and it was going to be against Ash. Right as the bell rang, Titanfall interfered, yanked Ash's neck into the ropes, pulled him out, started beating down on him to make sure that Ash got disqualified, or that Crimson Red got disqualified, and Ash picked up the win. Then, when the bell rang, he got in the ring, started hitting down on Crimson Red, and Crimson Red just retaliated and started beating down on him, threw him out of the ring, and attacked him even more. Sets up a lot of just 2 matches and a few little scenarios in between. Even a few weeks. That's turned, from the beginning of the night, it was a rivalry and a championship match that was probably going to happen, but was not really, was not too much of a sensible match, I guess you could say. And, just tonight alone, yes, it's tonight, just tonight alone, Crimson Red and Titanfall were able to make that rivalry make sense. Turning Crimson Red heel to make it a face versus a heel, good guy versus bad guy, and also, attacking Titanfall, giving Crimson Red the hype going into next week, and whatever they're going to do next week, which ends up helping his momentum going into the pay-per-view, and also leaves fans wondering what's going to happen, which may possibly make them want to buy the pay-per-view, even though it's a specific match type, and the match type is pretty much like the Royal Rumble match in the WWE. Being as that's the case, I think it's going to sell more than, let's say, Caution would or Outcast would. But it was an okay night for those two. They made a lot of progress in the rivalry. Glad it didn't take a few weeks to do that, because they were able to fit that in one night, which was very impressive on USW's behalf. So, I'm not going to get too much farther into it, because I will be having my top rope preview and prediction video up next week, and I will talk more about this rivalry and about what's going to happen at the pay-per-view in that video, so stay tuned for that coming out next week, possibly around the end of next week, maybe mid-next week, so just keep your eye out for that. 7th match on the card was the number 1 contenders match for the USW Championship. Derek Carter, after Kyle Reese was questioning whether he could actually defeat Zach Hardy or Enigma for the USW title, and Derek Carter said, "I'll prove it to you. Have any guy come out and challenge me, or I'll challenge any guy in the back to a match for the USW Championship number 1 contender spot." So he comes out, and Yo-Yo Joe ends up coming out, and apparently Yo-Yo Joe has been on vacation. Apparently has not taken a vacation day. Like, the days off that he's been given were given to him by USW, like he'll get the night off or something like that, he'll get a pay-per-view off. So apparently Crimson Red has quite a few vacation days on his contract, which ends up which ends up turning into weeks the more you save them up. So Yo-Yo Joe is taking my advice that I gave him a few months ago, even though he should have taken it a few months ago, to just take time off and focus on, something other than wrestling. I believe Yo-Yo Joe will be in, or will be on USW television, or I guess I'll call it television, or events, whatever. It looks like he'll be on USW events for maybe about a month, until he goes away for a little while and probably comes back a Bulletproof 7. So he's pretty much like, the Brock Lesnar of USW, or the Chris Jericho of USW. But I don't really see a purpose for Yo-Yo Joe being in action. I mean, you could give him a bootleg rivalry or an impromptu rivalry, against someone like, let's say, who's not doing anything. MC4. You could put him in an impromptu rivalry with MC4 for a month or two, and then he can go off. I mean, there's not really much you can do if he's gonna just leave in a month and then come back for a few weeks and then leave again. In that case, then you might as well just wait till his contract expires and talk to him about whether he wants to re-sign or not. But Yo-Yo Joe, I don't see the point of him being on USW events right now. They really don't have anything for him. I mean, the USW title picture is taken up between Zach Hardy / Enigma and Derek Carter, because yes, Derek Carter defeated Yo-Yo Joe tonight. The USW World Heavyweight titles picture is set in stone for at least, the next week or two, at least until Top Rope between Capital and Seth. The Blue Belt picture is taken care of Anarchy and Ash. The Extreme title looks to be newly formed and taken care of. The International title taken care of. The tag titles taken care of. I mean, there's nothing really left for him to accomplish right now, at least right now, because every spot has been taken up. I mean, if he were to have came in, let's say July, let's say June, for instance. If he were to come in with a tag team partner, then he could have at that time had a rivalry for the USW or for the tag titles, because the tag titles were not being utilized. That's really what he could have done, because back then the picture was still painted. The rivalries were all set in stone, and they've been that way for a while. So Yo-Yo Joe is kind of missing out on these things, and I don't see why USW is really keeping him, because I mean, you don't have anything for the guy. So I mean, isn't that the reason why you let go of Morbid? I mean, yeah, he asked for it, but you had nothing planned for him, so I mean, the same goes for Yo-Yo Joe. So I hope that USW can find something for him to do if he's going to be on events, considering he probably will be on probably until after Top Rope. I think it's possible that he has his last match for a few months on next week. Because I know next week he faces Derek Carter in a rematch that's already been spoiled for us. And I think that he's not in the Top Rope match, so he won't be at the Top Rope pay-per-view. And I think he'll be back maybe 2 or 3 weeks before Bulletproof, so he'll be back in time for the Bulletproof season. And then he'll probably have a match against one of the big performers. Maybe he'll have an impromptu match against Western Light or Marshagetta, something like that, since Bulletproof is, the pay-per-view where a bunch of past big rivalries come back, so kind of like a Dustin Raymond, Dwayne Porter, an Enigma or a Zach Hardy, Cannon, Marshagetta rivalry, a Yo-Yo Joe, Western Light rivalry, Marshagetta Cannon, Zach Hardy and Marshagetta, those kind of rivalries. I'm using those performers because they're the biggest performers now, with the exception of Derek Carter. With the exception of Dwayne Porter and Dustin Raymond. But, he's probably going to be on Bulletproof. I don't think they're going to leave him out of that pay-per-view. I think if he's going to be leaving when his contract expires in February, then I don't believe that Yo-Yo Joe, or I think that if he leaves when his contract expires, that I believe this will be his last big pay-per-view that he's involved in, since the next one after this would be called Greatness 10, which would be in April, and his contract expires in February, so he wouldn't be able to make it to Called Greatness. But anyway, hopefully they find something for Yo-Yo Joe to do. I guess put him in this match against Derek Carter next week, let him go off for a little bit, and then have him come back in a month or two to hype up for Bulletproof. So yeah, Derek Carter defeats Yo-Yo Joe, and ends up attacking Yo-Yo Joe which kind of already spoiled. Even before it was announced that, it pretty much spoils that, Yo-Yo Joe's going to want revenge, and then it's going to be Yo-Yo Joe versus Derek Carter next week. So after Derek Carter attacks Yo-Yo Joe, he pretty much walks off and pretends like nothing ever happened, or that I just kicked someone's ass, plain and simple, whatever, shit like that. So Derek Carter is going to be facing Enigma at Top Rope for the USW title. Is that really unexpected? That's obviously going to happen. Unless Zach Hardy breaks his foot. Then, in that case, then it's not going to happen. But I'm pretty sure he's not going to. So, it will be Enigma versus Derek Carter at Top Rope. And now, moving on to the main event of the evening. It was supposed to be Capital and Enigma. This is Seth and Simon Saint. But since Enigma's got a broken toe and was given the night off, Capital had to go in alone, and he fought Seth and Simon Saint. Or should I say, Capital ended up fighting Simon Saint, with Seth involved in the match. Because we start out the match, it's a 2-on-1 assault with quotation marks in the air, because I'm doing these thing with the fingers and crunching them or whatever, clenching them or whatever. And Capital starts off by throwing a few punches and then throwing Seth out of the ring, and then beating down on Simon Saint, throwing him out of the ring. Seth tries to get in the ring, realizes that Capital's taken out Simon Saint, runs away, runs back to the locker room. Simon Saint intercepts Capital and kicks him into the barricade. Capital gets pissed, starts beating down on Simon Saint, throws him in the ring, starts beating down on him more, and then beats him for the cover within like 5 minutes, which was good because that set up for what happened next, which was Seth trying to come back out and run back out until he realized that Capital had won the match. So he runs backstage. Capital gets him, attacks him, throws him against the wall, kicks him in the face or something like that, and then he goes for another kick in the face and kicks the wall by mistake, the concrete, cinder block, whatever wall, and Simon Saint does this like kick to the head or the temple, knocks Capital out of state or whatever, and he puts him on the table. There was a table backstage. Runs and jumps off a chair and puts his elbow through. Well, not through, but puts his elbow down on Capital and puts him through a table. That's where Intensity ends, and that's where it leaves off. So decent show. I know with the review that I put out right now, that you're watching right now, I know the review didn't make it sound so interesting. Apologies for that. It's just, I've got shit to do, and I'm tired. So yeah. I've been studying for my exams for a few hours now, since I've gotten the day off, and I've been doing some homework. So I'm tired as shit. I took a 2-hour break to watch Intensity when I really have like 3 hours left of homework. So you're lucky I'm putting out this review tonight. Or tomorrow morning as you may be watching it, or tomorrow afternoon, whatever. So, anyway guys, thank you for watching this was my review on the September 17th, 2014 edition of USW Wednesday Night Intensity, number 88. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more. I'm Chase Clover, signing off.